Hey, what's up everybody, it's Axel, and today's video is not going to be a proper review because I'm going to do just a quick impressions and just share a few thoughts of my own about the Elysian Annihilator 2023. I just want to answer the question, why is it so impressive, at least to me, and I want to share a few thoughts with you guys. For me to do a review of this one, I think if I did that, it's going to be a bit long, so I'm just going to share a few things about it. The Elysian Annihilator has always been probably for me and for my taste and preference after I listened to it, the best IM I've ever heard. I would say that. Even though there will be some other IMs that maybe, for example, Subtonic Storm have a bit more detail and so on, but still this one is, for me, the best IM I've ever heard. The balance, the tonality, the enjoyment. It's truly special, and I want to let you guys know why I think it's special, why it's the #1 spot in my ranking list. And let's go. I will not spend time about the unboxing experience. It comes with a nice cable, spin fit ear tips, and very, very premium unboxing experience that will take a lot of time and deserve its own video. But and in terms of the design, I think they look attractive. I will post a few pictures as long as as long as I'm talking about it, to kind of fill in the time. And let's talk about the most impressive aspect, why you get these, the sound. They are pretty impressive in terms of the sound. What do they do differently? I will start with describing the tuning. The tuning of the Elysian Annihilator 2023 is something that I will describe as a tasteful coloration. Some people call it a slight U-shape. Some people say, it has some emphasis on the bass and the treble, and I agree. There is an emphasis on the bass and some emphasis on the treble. And it's just this tasteful coloration. I will just mention something. If you try to use the same frequency response graph of the Annihilator on another IM, you will not get the same response. There is something that makes it sound good on this IM with these drivers, with this treble quality, with this bass quality. All right, it will not sound just this enjoyable on another IM. That's how I will describe it. In terms of the sound signature, what I'm getting from it is it's a very, very dynamic, very big, very grand type of sound. It's definitely fun, engaging, very exciting listen. It's something that you're going to find yourself toe tapping and bobbing your head with any track, right? Anything. It's something that grabs your attention, demands that you listen to it, and it's just super fantastic. It's not neutral, right? It's something that you really know it's not neutral, but it's probably way more enjoyable than neutral, or even neutral with a bass boost, which is my favorite type of sound signature. This even is better. But again, if you listen to any other IM and you tune it like this, it's not going to give you the same enjoyment. And I will mention that when I talk about the bass quality and the treble quality. Now, when it comes to the bass, I will say for me personally, it's one of the top. It's not the best, but it's like, let's say, top 3. There are also other IMs that have really good bass response, right? I mean, Sony IEZ1R, and you have... I think there is the Grand Maestro, is also super impressive. But I will say this is top 3, and probably for me even is the best. For me personally, in terms of the bass itself, it's all about the physicality and the texture. It's a very punchy bass. The word punchy describes the bass of the Annihilator 2023. It's a powerful slam. It's an impactful bass. There is an emphasis on the bass when you listen to anything. Like even when you're listening to Taylor Swift, the bass is just there and grabs your attention and makes everything you listen to more enjoyable. This will apply, of course, if you're someone like me who is a bass lover. I'm not a bass head, but I love bass, and bass is important to me. And to see something just so enjoyable, it just sounds... it sounds like Unleashed. Like, I don't know how to say it. It's just so powerful and so visceral and so physical. It just sounds right. It sounds different from, I would say, most of the IMs I've ever heard. It has an element of physicality and texture. Sure, there will be other IMs that have a great texture, but at the same time, they don't usually have the same physicality, the same visceral, impact I'm getting from it, and the woofer-like response, that punchiness. It's exactly like that, punchy, very impactful, very fun, very punchy, a lot of impact, boom, boom, boom. and it's just deep, very deep at the same time. So that adds an element of depth, and it's just going on always like that. So it's, I mean, like I said, even listening to Taylor Swift, the bass is just always hitting with detail and texture and impact, and it's just very enjoyable. Another thing is the mid-range. Now, I will say here that mid-range is not exactly tuned the way it's done with the bass and the treble. Like, to me, explain that basically when you listen to anything that has bass, mid-range, and treble, the bass and the treble are going to probably sound a bit louder compared to the mid-range, but still the mid-range is forward enough and highlighted enough, and you know, you get a lot of headroom. It will never even sound shouty, even though it's very extended when it comes to the female vocals. But I will say the emphasis is more on the bass and the treble. And this kind of makes it more easygoing and kind of contrasts itself with the Elysian Diva, which kind of understand now why they make it, because for me the Diva is all about the vocals and the mid-centric tuning. Yeah, sure, you get some bass switches and so on, but still the main star of the show of the Diva is the mid-range. Here, I think the star of the show is the bass and the treble, and the mid-range is fantastic. I know some people who heard this, and you know, I talked to them before at shows and stuff, you know, other audiophiles, and we were sharing impressions, and people told me, yeah, the mid-range is the best thing about the Annihilator. So it kind of depends on what you prefer and what you get from it. It's a very unique sound, because I understood why they say they like the mid-range here, because the bass adds a bit of fullness and makes the male vocals and the cello instruments and the piano sound very, very enjoyable and satisfying. And on the other hand, the treble implementation here is adding, you know, a lot of clarity and just different quality timbre that you get and sound that's just so realistic and so enjoyable to the female vocals and the higher pitched instruments. So some people will focus on that. If they like that, if they prefer that, this will be the standout feature for them. For me, I love the mid-range here, and I like the way it's tuned. I like the level. But what really impressed me about the Annihilator 2023 is the treble. For me, after the bass, I mean, the bass, as I said, maybe top 3. I think the treble, top 1 spot in the whole world for me. This is the best treble I've ever heard in my life. And, you know, I'm talking about IEMs, not headphones. This is the best treble I've ever heard. And I will describe it, I think the best word I would use to describe it is effortless. It doesn't sound like anything. I've heard a lot of IEMs with ESTs. This is completely different from, not some of them, all of them. All of them sound. This is an IEM, guys, I will describe, as I said, effortless. And I will give a small example, and it's just a very basic example. Do you know, if you listen to an IEM and you kind of raise the volume, right? I don't recommend you do that, but if you do raise the volume, if you keep raising the volume, what will annoy you, usually, is after you raise the volume, the treble becomes too much. The mid-range becomes too much, becomes shouty, the treble becomes harsh, and you kind of feel, oh, now I need to lower the volume. At least I'm talking about my ears, my experience. This is something that never happens to me with the Annihilator 23. You just keep raising the volume, and it just keeps going, and the bass gets more powerful, more powerful. It's like you're raising a subwoofer, and it's just keep going. The treble is never harsh. Never even has the slightest harshness in the sound. Just effortless, clear, clean detail, and the mid-range even doesn't become too much. I don't recommend you raise the volume. Please protect your ears. You know, I'm just giving an example to explain. To put it again in simple words, this sounds natural. This sounds very extended. It's highlighted. It's more than neutral. But it's so satisfying and so natural and extended. It sounds like airy, ethereal. That's how I will describe it. It's very different, man. It's very different. It's even completely different to the Glacier. It's just a completely different implementation here. And you listen to cymbal crashes, they sound like better than any other IM when it comes to the treble. They sound completely realistic, non-fatiguing, very linear, very, you know, I don't know, man. Effortless, kind of realistic, lifelike. These are the words I would use, but the takeaway here, I'm trying to put impressions into words, which is incredibly challenging when you have something like this. What I will say though, guys, is if you get a chance to try these, just try it at a show or a can jam or something. Just give it a try, because the experience is big. After the treble, you know, I want to say that the treble adds a lot of air and emphasized, beautiful, engaging, satisfying treble that you don't get anywhere else. Like cymbal crashes, oh man, you have to hear them. If you like rock and metal, you have to hear them here, because they sound very, very enjoyable. Like real life, kind of something like realistic. right? And it will never even get too much, even if you raise the volume. So there you go. When we talk about the resolution, this is something I want to touch on quickly. I will summarize it and say endgame. This is like at the level of the Anole VX and other IMs like that. And that kind of makes sense now when I say that, and I say it has end level, of detail, in-game level of detail, and it has this resolution. Combine that with the fantastic bass, top 3 bass I've ever heard, and top treble I've ever heard, and the amazing mid-range. And it kind of makes sense why the Annihilator is the Annihilator 2023. I will just quickly talk about the soundstage. I will say the soundstage here is focused on the width more than the depth and height. There is good depth and height, but it's a predominantly wide soundstage. Imaging is excellent as well. Fantastic, super precise. And just like when you listen to an album like this, there is nothing lacking. I would say, I think people who maybe they're not fans of this, I would say maybe people who don't like lots of bass, but still, even if you don't, I recommend you try it because you never know. I've had, friends of mine who tried it and they were impressed. And if you're treble sensitive, even if you're super treble sensitive, right? I still recommend you try this if you find it at CanJam one day, because you will be surprised. You'll be surprised that the treble implementation here is super, super smooth and detailed. And even if you're treble sensitive, you're going to love this. I don't have anything to compare with this, but I compared this at CanJam before with Subtonic Storm, and I will mention the Subtonic Storm is a bit more detailed compared to the Annihilator 2023. But in terms of enjoyment, again, this is not neutral, but I will choose this over the Subtonic Storm in terms of my personal enjoyment any day of the week. All right, that's it. That's my quick impression of the Elysian Annihilator 2023. Let me know your thoughts, guys, and until then, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.